The preseason college football coaches poll dropped today, and according to the coaches, we're going to get 1 versus 2 in week 1. Texas is number 1. Defending champion Ohio State is number 2. The Buckeyes, slight home favorites at the shoe. They won by 14 in the playoff semis last season. That's one of 3 top 10 matchups in week 1, if we're going by the coaches poll. That hasn't happened since World War II. Number 9 LSU is at number 6 Clemson. You've got number 10 Miami hosting Notre Dame. We also have a top 25 matchup to kick off the season, week 0 in Ireland. Number 21 Iowa State and number 20 Kansas State. Chip Patterson is here to look ahead to some of these great matchups, and we'll start with the best one. It's Texas, it's Ohio State, it's 1 versus 2. And Chip, there has never been a 1 versus 2 season opener. We've seen 1 versus 2 several times early on in the season in the non-con, but not as each team's first game. How about this one?
This is absolutely fantastic. We've got new starting quarterbacks for both of these teams since they played in the college football playoff semifinals. We, of course, have the reigning champs in Ohio State and a Texas team that, as they take over that number 1 spot, it is interesting to look back and remember, we used to wonder when Texas was going to be back, Chris. They're here. The Longhorns are here. The Arch Manning era is here. And I think that as I look at Texas going in as a slight underdog into the horseshoe, they actually are the team that have continuity. Unlike Ohio State, Texas has the same offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator from last year and have for a couple years now. You've got more returning starters, more returning production, but of course that big question mark is whether Arch Manning in this big time stage is going to be ready to go against an Ohio State defense that does lose a lot of players to the NFL, but still has plenty of talent for new coordinator Matt Patricia to work with.
If you're gonna lay 2.5 points, where are you rolling here? You're a home team. You're the defending champ, but Texas is the number 1 team and the favorite to win the national championship. How do you play this right now if you're picking it?
Longhorns money line. I mean, I really think the continuity matters here because it's the first game. The first game always has communication issues. You've always got things going on that you were not able to plan for until you got into the fire. So give me the coaching staff that has been together and been through these wars. This Texas program has been to the Final Four 2 years in a row, and they're coming into the game looking to set a standard and set a tone for the rest of the year. Ohio State and Texas will exit this game, win or lose, going into the conference looking to be a conference champion. But I think that for this game, for this one-off in week 1, which can be kind of an island in and of itself, I'm going to take Texas. I'm going to take the plus value on the money line. 2.5, nah, just let me sprinkle it, Chris. I'm not taking the points. I don't need them.
And then Ryan Day back on the hot seat week 1 of the NFL college football season. That's in the noon window. The 3:30 window, week 1 Saturday, highlighted by Alabama going to Doak to face FSU. Now, Bama is ranked 8th. FSU got 8 top 25 votes after being a preseason top 10 team last year.
Yeah, this is a Florida State team that has had to replenish once again. And Mike Norvell and his staff, they hope that they were able to do a better job out of the portal in terms of getting players who are going to be able to overcome adversity. Because that's what happened with Florida State, Chris. Last year's team was way more talented than their 2-10 record. This Florida State team that they've got this year is talented enough to be able to not get outclassed, but they do find themselves fighting an uphill battle. So are they going to buckle under the pressure that they're going to see from the Crimson Tide, or are they going to rise to the occasion playing at home looking for a little bit of fresh blood? Now, I think what Florida State has going in their favor is the coaching staff turnover. Gus Malzahn comes in as the new offensive coordinator. Tony White comes in as the new defensive coordinator. But I think they're in trouble. Tommy Castellanos has been running his mouth all offseason talking about how they don't have Nick Saban to save them. I think Alabama has one of the best defenses in the entire country. I think we see an old school Alabama team under Kalen DeBoer, one that might remind you of an old Saban team. I think Florida State goes into Tallahassee, business trip mindset, puts the boa constrictor on Tommy Castellanos, and walks out of there with a double-digit win that is covering this spread and likely keeping the scoring a little low from the Seminoles.
All right, that again is in the afternoon window. Saturday night It's not a battle to the death, we hope, but the battle of Death Valleys. It's number 9 LSU at number 6 Clemson. Some might say Clemson was ranked a little bit low in this coaches poll. They're 3.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a ceiling. If you want to argue for them for 5 or 4, that's fine. But top 3, you got to show it to me. You can't just be ACC good. And what a great opportunity for Clemson to be able to do that, to be able to erase the frustrations of losing to Georgia and South Carolina in non-conference last year, to set the tone for what I do believe can be a real run at a national championship with all of this NFL talent that they've got at all levels of the roster. But to me, the big difference and why I think Clemson's going to be able to defend its version of Death Valley under the lights, its new defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, who Dabo Swinney described, and I love this, a bowling ball of butcher knives, because that Clemson defense let South Carolina run all over them. They let the Citadel run all over them. They let Louisville run all over them. They have NFL talent that was not performing at its talent level last season. I think the changeover at defensive coordinator makes Clemson's defense be the real star here against Garrett Nussmeier and LSU. Offense for offense, Clemson for LSU, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, kind of a wash for me. Look for Peter Woods, TJ Parker, and the Tigers defense to be the one that comes through for Clemson playing at home on Saturday night.
This is a huge week 1 for the ACC, really a narrative building week. Another ACC team in a top 10 matchup. It's number 10 Miami hosting number 5 Notre Dame. This went down in Miami Gardens.
Yeah, we've got a turnover for Notre Dame, a defensive coordinator. They lose Al Golden to the NFL. They pick up Chris Ash, but that Notre Dame defense should still be nasty. And that might be tough for new Miami quarterback Carson Beck, who when we saw him running away from pressure, that was when he threw a lot of his interceptions. Now, the good news for Carson Beck, and likely one of the reasons why he chose Miami as his transfer destination, is that Mario Cristobal has built up the lines of scrimmage to where Miami, along the offensive and defensive line, are not just right there near the top of the ACC, but really one of the most confident teams in terms of the lines of scrimmage in the entire country. So whether it's Francis Mauigoa at the tackle position all the way down to the other side of the line, Carson Beck should have protection even against a nasty Notre Dame defensive front. The question for me is whether a Miami defense that was incredibly leaky last season, are they going to be able to be better with a changeover from the portal and a new defensive coordinator in Corey Heatherman? Because we remember Miami having one of the most explosive offenses in the country last year. They also needed a lot of those yards and points because of how bad their defense was. If that defense shows up, Miami can set the narrative and set the tone with a win against the reigning runner-up. But I am very interested to see whether or not they're going to be ready to stop Jeremiah Love, who is one of the best running backs in the country for Notre Dame.
And if these rankings hold next week in the AP poll, it'll be the first time since November of 1945 we get 3 non-conference top 10 matchups. No top 10 teams in the Big 12 in the coaches poll, but we do have a top 25 matchup to kick off the season, week 0. It's Farmageddon in Ireland. Number 21, Iowa State, and number 20, Kansas State.
Yeah, Kansas State really should enter this season looking for a bounce back. Kansas State as a team was a disappointment last season. Avery Johnson as a quarterback was a little bit of a disappointment last season. They just didn't have consistency. You know, they would go through and they would lose a game they shouldn't lose. They had turnovers at bad times. But the truth of the matter is that this Wildcats team really wasn't that far off from that 4-way tie for first place in the Big 12 standings. Now, for Iowa State, you've got a lot to replace. While you bring back Rocco Becht, there were still so many key players off the team that made it to the Big 12 title game and won double-digit games that need to be replaced. This, to me, Chris, is really a little bit more about Kansas State because I see the Wildcats as a real, Big 12 title pick. Iowa State maybe floating somewhere in the middle of that conference, getting some respect from the coaches, but I think that the Wildcats are the better team and the team playing for more. On a personal note, just between us, I kind of like these conference rivalry games to be stateside, but happy for the people of Dublin that they get to experience Farmageddon Irish style.
One and only, and that's to kick off the season, noon Eastern time, week 0. Our CBS kickoff is week 1, number 3, Penn State, at home against Nevada, the Big Ten game of the week. Penn State's going to be involved in a lot of them. Could the Nittany Lions be the best team in the country?
I think that the Nittany Lions are my pick to win the national championship, but I understand why they are not being put number 1 or number 2. And for Penn State, maybe it's better to be in that position so you're not trying to go wire to wire, and so that you understand there is a standard, your conference rival Ohio State, that you are going to be chasing. And I think that it's about that internal standard that we get to see straight from week 1, that, yeah, you do want to have Drew Aller in sweats for the third quarter because they've gone and they've run up a 40-point lead going into halftime. You want to allow Katron Allen and Nick Singleton to get out there and get warmed up, but understand that you've built up enough of a lead, because this is a Penn State team that has players that could be playing on Sunday on both sides of the ball, but they're choosing to play on Saturday for Penn State in pursuit of what they were so close to last season, which is a championship, a Big Ten championship where they were just short of Oregon, and a national championship where they were a couple plays away last season in the semifinals. So, yeah, I think Penn State can win the national championship. I understand why they're not number 1, but they're still my pick.